35 years after The Handmaid's Tale was published, a new generation of young women were enthralled when the dark, terrifying story of Gilead came to television. The handmaid's uniform, a symbol for them of a variety of women's rights issues from Argentina to Belfast, and at demonstrations against the US president in London.
But you.
In the dystopian, totalitarian state of Gilead, all women are subjugated to the needs of men, neither allowed to read nor to move freely, own property or handle money. Most chillingly, they're deprived of control over their own bodies.
You girls will serve the leaders of the faithful and their barren wives. You will bear children for them. Oh, you are so lucky!
The handmaids live in sexual servitude, forced to repopulate a world that has no moral compass.
Blessed be the fruit.
Now, the real world, struck by a pandemic, is in uncertain and troubled times. Societal change is perhaps inevitable, fertile territory for a writer of Margaret Atwood's imagination. Gilead, as portrayed on television, will be back for a fourth season, but only when COVID allows. Well, earlier I spoke to Margaret Atwood and I started by asking her whether fans of her books, The Handmaid's Tale and The Testaments, could expect to see them on screen as a single narrative.
I think that's the idea. So they were quite happy when The Testaments turned up because it gave them more material. And the person who was extremely happy was Anne Dowd, who said she'd been praying every night for more Aunt Lydia, and then it appeared. So in fact, she read Aunt Lydia for the audiobook and came to London to help us launch the book last year. So we did try to make sure there were no big discrepancies. In fact, we tried to make sure there were no discrepancies.
So it will, and everybody will be interested to hear it, it will make it to TV.
Well, you can't ever say anything definite about TV, as you know, but I think that is the intention.
So much of the story of Gilead is horrifying, but it's almost like the horror is manageable as long as you yourself are living not in a totalitarian state, but in a democracy. And I wonder if indeed that message is as important, if not more so, than it was 35 years ago when you wrote The Handmaid's Tale.
I think it's hideously important. So for a while there, we thought end of history, it was the 90s, no more Cold War, la-di-da, but that isn't what next happened. So I think people started getting scared with 9/11 and then with the financial meltdown, and then the United States became polarized in a way that we really haven't seen since the 30s. So yeah, I'm nervous because you know what the playbook for an impending dictatorship is, and when the boxes start getting checked off, you get quite nervous.
So looking as you do from Canada over the border to the US election, how do you think that is playing out in terms of polarization? Is it the result, no matter what it is, going to be less polarizing one way or the other? Or do you think increasingly America is a polarized country?
Well, it has a choice. It can either go towards more polarization and sort of street warfare, or it can go towards less polarization and pulling together as a country. And if it wants to preserve its position on the world stage, or I should say regain its position on the world stage, it will have to do the latter. But oddly enough, it may be the military that draws it together, because I think they've made it quite clear that their loyalty is to the Constitution.
Really? So you think there's actually a possibility that the military in America will play a role post the election if Donald Trump is re-elected?
Well, no, not quite in that same way. If he is not re-elected and tries to stay on, claiming some kind of, fraudulent election or something like that, their loyalty, the oath that they swear, is to the Constitution of the United States. It's not to an individual.
And
so,
sorry,
yeah.
but that's amazing. What makes you think that might happen?
Because lots of people are saying it.
Now, this is not a conspiracy theory, though.
I don't know. Let's find out what happens. And people have been writing about it in quotes reputable mainstream.
But I mean, that essentially might lead to some kind of civil war.
Not if the military has anything to say about it, I expect, because as I have just said, I'll say it again, their oath of loyalty is to the Constitution of the United States, not to an individual. So their role is to preserve the democracy that now exists. And if somebody tries to violate that and set themselves up as an absolute monarch or a dictator, they will have something to say about it. And a number of them have already been saying that. A number of generals have been talking, a number of retired generals have been talking about that.
I mean, isn't that quite an extraordinary thing for Margaret Atwood to say?
Why?
Because I suppose that I think of you as somebody who is very measured. I mean, obviously you create these amazing dystopian narratives, but what you're actually suggesting is that America might become a dystopian narrative.
Oh, yes. So it has that in its past. It didn't start as a democracy. It started as a 17th century theocracy. So that is one of its foundation stones, and that cannot be discounted. And once you start talking about white supremacy, you start getting very nervous indeed, because a lot of that is given a theological basis.
But what if Donald Trump simply wins by having a majority of the votes and votes where it actually matters? Maybe he just will win because he is the candidate people want to have as their president.
Yeah, in that case, he will have won. You know, that's how democracy works. If you win, you win.
So in your archive for The Handmaid's Tale, back in the 80s, you've got newspaper and magazine cuttings from the 1980s. I think I read that one was Ceausescu forces women to have 4 babies, and about the Lebensborn movement in Nazi Germany, and Ayatollah Khomeini's slaughterhouse in Iran. And reading some of the COVID headlines with your writer's eye, the conspiracy theorists believe, of course, that COVID has depersonalized the individual, not least with masks, and they warn about the threat of state control. They see it like that. I'm interested to see how you see it now when we've just had that conversation.
It won't much matter what they think if they die because they get COVID. So sure, every individual is an individual, but you would think that if you are an individual, you would like to remain living. I mean, maybe not. But that is in fact the scientific choice. Do you want to get it, and do you want other people to get it?
But do you think it's changed the way that we view the state? Because the state is saying, you know, we want a lockdown here, we want a lockdown there. You can come out of lockdown for 2 weeks, but you're going back to lockdown. Do we think of the state under COVID as kind of benign, or do we think of it as potentially threatening?
Any of these has possibility, but let's just go to, say, World War II, which you're, Kirsty, I can't see you, but I doubt that you're old enough to remember that. There were a lot of restrictions on what people could and couldn't do and what they could and couldn't eat. We had rationing, and people accepted that because they felt they were in an emergency situation. So if you feel you're not in an emergency situation, go ahead. But if you feel you are in an emergency situations create limitations if you want to get through them.
And finally, Margaret Atwood, you know, in The Handmaid's Tale and the Testaments, you created this extraordinary dark world. But by and large, are you optimistic about the 21st century?
There's no point in being pessimistic, because if you're really pessimistic, you don't do anything. So I'm quite optimistic when I see things like Extinction Rebellion coming along, because the people doing that are quite young. And I think they are moving the political needle, and that gives us all hope. There's not much point in expecting the dwindling number of 80-year-olds to change very much right now. So I'm in that group, dwindling 80-year-olds. But these young people who are getting together, forming alliances, and trying to actually accomplish things, they're quite hopeful making.
Margaret Atwood, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.